And I was in really good shape. I was healthy till I was about 35. And then when I started making money, I got lazy with my health and it wasn't the priority.
My name is Michael Rubino. I'm on a personal mission to make sure you don't get sick inside your own home.
I knew there was something wrong. I'm just so relieved there's something that you can do about it.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining another episode of Never Been Sicker. I'm your host, Michael Rubino, and today's guest, we have Bill. Bill, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thanks for having me. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. I actually flew to LAX this morning, and I got here about 11 minutes into my hotel, so I'm glad I was on time.
Yes, I'm glad you can make it too. You know, sometimes traveling, it's a bit of a mess, and your plane's supposed to land at a certain time, and it's never on time, so I'm glad you were able to make it here.
Yeah, thank you.
So, given the fact this has never been sicker, you know, you're an entrepreneur. You've been involved in many different startups and businesses. Real estate obviously comes to mind right away for me, just because of my experience with air quality. But I would love for you to just give a little bit of insights into some of the health challenges you might have experienced in life, and how that's shaped the decision making process that you have today.
Yeah, I've dealt with heart disease as an example in my family. It's rampant. My grandmother was actually the first person to get a stent put in 1974, a year after I was born, at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. My mother passed away from COPD. She was a 2-packer a day for probably 50 years of her life. I played professional golf, and I dipped Copenhagen for 21 years, and it took a life event of me seeing what happened to my mother smoking for me to quit about 9 years ago. But I battled my own health issues. About 14 months ago, I was diagnosed as pre-diabetic from my doctor, and I was 307 pounds. Today I'm 229. And as we talked in kind of the pre-show, I really got hooked on Gary Brecka, the biohacker, and I, did his gene mutation test, gone through that, got on the Ultimate Human protocol with him. I'm doing the mentholated supplements, just kind of the whole deal. I actually even made a huge change in my life, which is pretty expensive. I switched from a regular doc that I had a relationship with, personal, where our kids go to school together for 19 years, because I didn't want to be reactive anymore, and I wanted a very proactive plan. And a lot of us, and you're younger than me, but when you get to my age, you kind of have this epiphany. I got to start taking care of myself. And I did, but it was when I was here. I'm in LA right now. I grew up in Southern California. I went to UCLA. I played professional golf, and I was in really good shape. I was healthy till I was about 35. And then when I started making money, I got lazy with my health, and it wasn't the priority. And over COVID, it was like charcuterie every night, bottle of wine, no workout, just got lazy. And to kind of see other people around me, I was in an industry, the limousine industry. And I'm still kind of in it today from an educational standpoint and a coaching standpoint. But the obesity rate in that industry is ridiculous. There's no stats, there's no data. It's a very small niche industry. But probably 60%, maybe 70% of the owners in that industry are obese. And so I've been in the HVAC industry. I created the glow-in-the-dark miniature golf industry. I've been in restaurants, a lot of different things. I started going back and looking at where I was. And what I see is, for entrepreneurs, a lot of us are obese. So that became a pretty big thing for myself, not just to lose weight, but to really become healthy. Lowering my triglycerides. I got diagnosed with some 27% cloggage in my widowmaker, and it was right where it separated. So those things are eye-opening, and I think for me, I've started sharing that into my social following, just to hopefully I can inspire somebody to start a little bit earlier than I did. Don't wait till you're 50. Start when you're in your 20s and your 30s. I have 2 guys traveling with me, my COO and a sales guy, that are with me as I'm traveling this summer tour thing that I'm doing. And literally, I'm trying to get them to do the same stuff. It's funny, when somebody starts to get healthy, that's all they talk about, right? It's almost like when you get into an MLM or something, that person just wants to sell you stuff in their family room all the time. So that's kind of where I'm at in my life today. And I think that part of my secondary mission is to really help entrepreneurs that do struggle with being healthy personally, weight loss, water consumption, Coke, tobacco, whatever it is, and like Coke, I mean like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, to help them get off of that stuff. Hopefully I can be inspiring for them.
No, that's actually, that's great. First off, congratulations on your health journey. I mean, I know you say you started late. I mean, it doesn't matter what age you are. You can never start too late. You got to start today, right? That's the key. And I think, you lost more than 100 pounds. Am I doing the math right? Or just around 100 pounds, somewhere around that aspect?
78 so far. And I'm
78
trying to stay
pounds.
like right between 225 to 230, so I probably won't lose much more.
225 to 230. So you're pretty much right where you really want to be, which is incredible. And you accomplish it in a pretty reasonable amount of time, which is also very incredible. And obviously you now help other people kind of learn from the mistakes that you've made. You said that you started making money, health becomes one of the last things. I mean, for me, actually, I recently lost, I was probably about 260 pounds, my heaviest. Right now I'm about 220, lost 40 pounds in the last couple of years. And I'll be honest, I seesaw back and forth right now. When if I get up to 230, I'm like, I get up to 230. I'm like, I got to hit the gym again. I got to start paying attention when I eat and kind of go back and down. And I do the seesaw effect.
Right.
For me, it's been like less about lack of prioritization of health. For me, it's just like, it's so easy to put working out last. It's like, I got to get up. I got to handle a bunch of work stuff, and then I'll work out in the afternoon, and then stuff comes up in the afternoon. It's so easy to kind of mentally just put it aside and say, it's not as important as what's in front of me right now. And I suspect that might happen to other entrepreneurs too. But it's like lately I've been, I just have to find time. I have a room in my house where I can work out in, right? I've got workout equipment and all the things. If I just get myself into that room, I'm all right.
I think we have to plan for it, right? Yeah. And I think that I don't have time is the adult version of the dog ate my homework. It's just a fucking excuse, right? So what I did is I overinvested. Like I went and bought a $7,000 sauna. I spent $1,500 or $1,800 on red light. So I think one of the big things for me is I have a planner that I use and like a daily calendar. If it's not on my calendar, there is no chance that I will prioritize or make time for that. So one of the big things, and probably the most important thing for me, is I'm similar to you. If I try to work out in the afternoon, or if I try to do a sauna or red light therapy or whatever I'm trying to do, the likelihood of me skipping that increases by like 3 to 4x. So I do everything first thing in the morning. I'm a pretty diehard Tim Ferriss, 4-hour body now, type of a deal. And so I started fasting. I've done Gary Brecka's, 84-hour fast. But for me, it's wake up. And on odd days, it's 30, 30, 30. If you've studied that from like Tim Ferriss before, it's a 30 grams of protein, 30 minutes within you wake up, and then 30 minutes of steady state cardio. Then I'll do like 15 minutes of red light therapy. Then I'll get my sauna, for 20 to 30 minutes. And it's literally like a 2-hour process. So I've known myself well enough, Michael, that like I'd love to do it with my wife. We love to do things together, but she's the night owl. I'm the morning person. If she hits snooze, I know she's not getting out of bed for 30 minutes and she has to eat. So that's going to delay me. So I just go and get started, even though I want to do it as a couple with her. So if I don't start by 6 o'clock to where I'm done by 8, then I know I'm going to be impeding into the rest of my schedule. So I think a lot of it has to do with 1, commitment, 2, getting started, like you said, but 3, you need to build a schedule that you can continue to do on a daily basis. So even like this morning, we had a 6:55 a.m. flight out of Dallas. I had to get up at 4 o'clock, and I couldn't do red light therapy, couldn't do sauna, but I was able to get into the gym, and then do my ketones and do all the stuff that I do with the 10X Health, to make sure, because if I skip it and I get here, I literally have like 15 minutes, do your podcast, and I've got to get to Santa Monica, do a meeting. Just life consumes us, right? So I think that preparation and planning is a huge key to that.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you 100%. Yeah, you've mentioned obviously 10X Health, Grant Cardone's program. You've mentioned Gary Brecka and Tim Ferriss. Probably even another person that comes to mind is Dave Asprey. All these different solutions to improve our health. Talking about the sauna specifically, I love the sauna. and red light therapy. I would love to just hear from you, because from the perspective of where I'm at all the time is air quality. And one of the biggest things about poor air quality is mold, right? Mold exposure. And when you're dealing with mold exposure and mold toxicity and you're sick from that, you're typically in the sauna. You're typically doing red light therapy. And there might be people listening to this that this is the first time they're hearing of these two amazing things that you can do. Do you mind sharing a little bit about, the benefits you've seen when you've done, work in the sauna and red light therapy?
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing that I've seen is recovery for me, right? I'm not smart enough. I'm not a biohacker. I'm just a regular guy like everybody that's listening to your podcast. So I'm taking the advice of my doctor. So and here's the thing. Gary Brecka is not a physician. He's not a doctor, right? He has doctors that work for him at 10X Health. He is a biohacker that used to work for one of the largest life insurance companies, and has studied over 300 million, health records and these tests and all this type of stuff. So I do trust Gary, and I've gone down to Miami Aventura to his office. I've met him personally, but I run that all by my doctor first. That's number one. Number two is I'm doing a combination of things, and honestly, I didn't really A/B test it. I'm a marketer at heart, right? So typically a marketer, you make one change, an iteration, you test it, and if it doesn't work, you go back to baseline. I didn't do that. So I went straight into keto and working out, and that was not working. That's when this whole time I'm following Gary Brecka, that's when I called my doctor. I said, hey, I want to do the ultimate human. I got my first my first gene mutation test from him. I had about 12 years before I was going to die. I was 50 years old at the time. That was way too fucking early for me. So I literally talked to my wife. I'm like, we got to do all this stuff, and I want you to do it with me. I started this sauna. I'll start with that. I started the sauna really because I wanted my wife to do it with me, because she had like head tremors, and we'd done CT scans. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with her, and I was afraid that it could be something to do with early onset dementia or any Alzheimer's, any of that type of stuff. So, whether it's following Tony Robbins, Lifecore, Gary Brecka, whoever it is, the benefits of doing a sauna just 18 to 20 minutes, 3-4 times a week reduces, and I don't want to quote the wrong percentage, but I think it's like 67% from dementia, right? So I'm the extremist. We started doing it. She did it 3 to 4 times a week. I do it almost every day for like 30 minutes. I used to do 40, but I cut it back to 30. But I'm also doing ketones. I'm also doing, Shilajit, 2 gummies a day. And I'm going and getting heart tests, hemoglobin, triglycerides, all that type of stuff, because I've had pulmonary embolisms twice. I have high blood pressure. I'm on blood thinners. I'm probably going to be able to come off of my Eliquis, which, is part of my blood thinners now because of the tests that we've done and what I've done with my overall health. So the sauna for me isn't for weight loss. It's not for any of that type of stuff. It's really just the benefits of potentially dementia, getting rid of, all of the toxins that come out from going through a sauna. And the red light therapy, I've seen the biggest benefit from my skin, actually, to be honest with you. It's supposed to help you reproduce more collagen, but also from a recovery standpoint. I used to have really major shin splints when I was heavy. And as I was weighting down, if you will, had them really bad where I had to start walking. I couldn't run for almost 6 months. I had to drop like 55 pounds before I could start to run again. Now I'm doing about 3 miles a day, or 3 miles every other day in running. But I attribute red light therapy, and then I have this device that I put under my knees that increase blood flow into my legs by about 400%. So that way I could recover quickly and then be able to get back out and get to work the next day, if that makes sense.
No, it makes great sense, and I appreciate that. It's really interesting. You mentioned early onset of dementia and some of those things. Dr. Dale Bredesen has a great study out that talks about how he believes toxins stored in the fat cells and accumulation of toxins actually can increase the likelihood and susceptibility of having early onset of dementia, or inhalational Alzheimer's, as he calls it, because they're environmental toxins that you typically air transmission is the greatest route of exposure. And sauna work, obviously, removing toxins, right? This is something that can help, obviously, course correct that, which is why so many people, when they're dealing with environmental toxins, typically part of the program is going to be some level of sauna work and detoxifying and stuff like that. So it's very interesting how these all interconnect, and why biohacking isn't just, for someone looking to lose weight or, improve their health, but also just overall dealing with just illness, right? And improving certain medical conditions. I mean, it's crazy because, we've kind of been accustomed to this society where, if you've got a condition, you have to take a pill, and that's the solution. But no, there are things you can literally do to improve the conditions that you're experiencing in life by sweating more, by, red light therapy and some other things that seem almost too good to be true, like too natural to work. Right. And I always find it's the simple things in life that we typically pass up on that actually that's where the answers are. They're in the simplicities that we've just overlooked.
I'll add on to that is, if I would have heard 15 years ago about the benefits, and this is coming straight from Gary Brecka, right, of grounding and getting first light, I would have said, that's just such bullshit. I don't need to, I'm not doing that. That's so stupid. I mean, just walking on my fucking grass and my bare feet, catching the 5:30 a.m. light. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I think the number one mistake that people make is when they're in a position like I was at over 300 pounds, all they want to do is lose weight, right? I wanted to actually get healthy. So I'm 51. I think I shared with you right before we started. I switched, or I might have said it on the podcast, to a concierge doctor. So we went through and did all these tests, and he's got me on a plan combined with what Gary does, right? So I don't want to live to be 100. I mean, it'd be cool, but I want to live to be at least 75, but I want to be just as healthy, just as good when I'm 65, 70, 75 as I am today. I want to ski, I want to snowboard, I want to travel, I want to fish, I want to be able to run. I mean, if I have to lay on the couch all day and I can't do anything and I'm 65, I don't want to be around. You know what I mean? So I want to be healthy and I want to be active. So I think that's number one. Really, the weight loss was the precursor to start this journey, but it became secondary because here's the biggest thing for me. I got COVID in January, the first week of January 2023. I started on this journey in April of 2023, not because I got COVID. If I didn't get COVID, all the years prior to COVID, because I have bronchial issues, all that stuff, I would be bedridden. I would get walking pneumonia. I'd be hacking and coughing. I would be sick like 30, 40, maybe even 50% of the time if I had a bad winter. I have not had the sniffles. I have not had a cold. I have not had anything since I got COVID in January of 23. I literally made it through the entire winter, and I spent 27 days in Montana in sub 30 degree temperatures, skiing and snowboarding 22 days. Just my health. It's not about the weight loss. My health is so much stronger because of everything that I've done. And, like I said, when I started on the journey, I couldn't walk 5,000 steps in a day. I couldn't go a mile. Shin splints would get so bad. I'd do like a half a mile, sit down, stretch out my shins. Now I'm back to 3 miles consistently, and I've done 4.5, without having to stop, without having to walk. These are huge milestones that, and as you know, you're way more educated on all this stuff than I am. It's what I call in marketing or business value stacking. The value stacking of everything that I'm doing, I'm seeing the benefits of it tremendously, and it's not just about weight loss.
That's incredible. No, and you've obviously made a remarkable transformation. Have you done the retesting? I know you said that when you were 50, you said you basically had 12 years of life left to live.
Yes,
have you retested that to see?
I did. So I tested in May when I started of last year, and that was all inspired by Dana White, if you've seen his Instagram videos and stuff about it, because you would think that he was in pretty good shape. And I got to meet Dana at 10X many years ago, about 5 years ago. But he's the one that really inspired me to start this journey when he released what his results were. And I was pretty in line with him. I was 2 years younger. I was about, I think it was 12 years, 2 months or something like that. I've added 14 years. I've added 14 years. And I didn't start like the Gary stuff till like September, right? So it's only been, 9 months, 8 months that I've been doing it. And I just retested with my wife because she didn't do it last time. I did it on my own. I didn't even tell her I was doing the test. I just spent the $600 and got it done. I just retested with my wife, and now it's literally up to 26 years, which puts me, wow. My grandmother, my grandfather, and my mother, didn't know my father, and that's my grandmother and my grandfather on my mother's side. They all died at 74. So what do you think that does to me mentally about what I'm thinking? Now, Gary's, who can predict within like 96%, 90 days of when you're going to pass away naturally, right? No car accidents, plane crashes, anything like that, to where I've passed that, what I call the Mendoza line, from a baseball term, to where if I can get past that, I'm going to feel like I've had a pretty good victory. And if I can stay as healthy as I am today, now that's my goal. And that's always the hardest thing. We mentioned earlier, right? I didn't share this with you, but I have the XXX closet, I have the XX closet, and I still held on to my extra large stuff from like 2015 when I was like 205 to 210. And I haven't been able to get into. I get into some of it today. I'm like right in between XL and XX, and I'm 6'6". So, but I just got rid of, I'm confident enough in the life changes that I've made for the first time in my adult life that I just threw all the XXX stuff away. I told my wife there's no fucking chance I'm ever going back there. But one of the big things is it's hard to cheat. So literally, I've got my COO in the hotel room next door. I just heard his door open. Where he just went, he set all my stuff up here. I've already got my laptop on top of my suitcase so I can get it up high enough for me. And you can see the whole picture of my setup on Instagram, Bill Faeth 73, if you want to see the podcast setup. But he just went to In-N-Out. And I'm like, dude, I can't do it. I mean, I grew up in SoCal. I'm an In-N-Out guy, right? I don't know where you're from. You're either Texas or Shake Shack or In-N-Out, right? And I want it so bad, but I know that because I am an addict, not like a drug addict. I'm not an alcohol addict. I'm an addict on, business, and I'm a good addict right now on being healthy. And as soon as I break that chain, that it's hard to come back from that path, right? So if anybody's struggled with weight, you know what I'm talking about. The hardest part is where I'm at right now. It's not getting there. It's now I have to sustain. So making those strong mental decisions and understanding if you're an addict for food. Because I'm an addict for like cheese and crackers, and I'm a wine addict. I love drinking wine. Don't do it every day. I cut my wine consumption by like 75 to 80%. But here's the biggest thing. You talk about these toxins, right? And the air toxins. But the human toxins are the biggest problem, in my opinion. I used to put 140 to 170 ounces of Diet Coke in my body every day. 140 to 170 ounces a day. I haven't given it up 100% because I can't deal with those headaches, but I can make a 20-ounce bottle last between 3 to 4 days now. Right? That's probably one of the biggest things. I gave up nicotine when my mom passed away. I used to dip Copenhagen and Skull and that type of stuff. But I think it's the shit we put in our body ourselves, what I call the human toxins, that really can stunt the rest of our life. I don't know if you would agree or disagree with that.
No, I mean, of course I agree with you. I mean, I think we make our own decisions too, and it doesn't help, and it all compounds together, right? And if you're consuming toxins on a regular basis, from the choices you're making, not even the stuff. I say air toxins. Sometimes you're just not in your control. Right. If you're renting a place, you're living in a place, it's not in your control. If you're breathing air outside and it's toxic because there's wildfires going out, it's not in your control. But drinking water instead of Coke or Pepsi, that's in your control, right? Yep. Eating a salad instead of a cheeseburger, that's in your control. And I think we all have some level of addiction to some things in life, and I'm right there with you. I mean, if I start getting addicted to being healthy and I'm making all those decisions, it's really easy to get drawn away from that if you just kind of go back to the same stuff you're doing before. And so it's a hard willpower decision. It's like I'm the same way. I'm an all or nothing type of guy. I'm either all in or I'm not in at all, because I know once I go back across that line, I'm back into it, right? And so
I learned something very young, Michael, and it was from I grew up playing golf here in Southern California, and then I went to UCLA and played professional golf for 6 years. And there was a guy named Earl Woods, who was Eldrick Woods' father, and I was fortunate enough to travel with Tiger in junior golf and stuff before he went to Stanford and I went to UCLA. And he had a rule that Tiger, even when he was 12, and I'm older than Tiger, so we had a little bit of an age difference, but he would not let him go more than 2 days without practicing. Even when he was 10, 12 years old, 2 days. So you can take Monday off after a tournament on the weekend. You can take Tuesday off, but you have to be out and grinding, like full day, not like mailing it in and, going and hitting 10 putts. You better be out there for 6-8 hours practicing. You better hit the gym. You better be running 5 miles. You better be doing all that stuff for 2 days. So I took that with me, something I'd learned from Earl just, almost by osmosis. And I've applied that on this journey, and it's something that I've never done before. So now, as I'm in the stabilization phase of, my health journey, it's not going down, it's not going up. It's really one day. I will cheat one day, but I know myself well enough that I can't do the Tim Ferriss 4-hour body where he would like engulf pizza, eat 2 large pizzas and all that type of stuff to where he'd make himself eat himself sick to where he wouldn't want it for the next 7 days. Body for Life back in the 90s had that same work 6 days and have a cheat day and just engulf everything. So I will indulge, but I know if I go too far, that it's going to be much harder for me to come back, and I will only do it once, and I've got to go back. So, the problem that I have is when you're on the road, I like to travel light. I hate checking bags, right? So I wish I could bring my red light stuff with me. I don't have that, right? So I know those are things that I have to skip, but the stuff that I can physically control to put inside my body, I give myself a 1-day grace period. And then I typically, because of the mentality I have, like you mentioned, OCD, ADD, all these different acronyms, then I'll probably work twice as hard the next day.
Yeah, no, it makes good sense. It's the goal. The whole goal here for health and wellness is controlling what goes in or on your body, right? You have dermal exposure, you have what you inhale, you have what you ingest. These are things that you can control for the most part. Do you have any air quality hacks as part of your biohacking repertoire?
It's funny because I didn't know that you were so into, kind of the air hacking stuff. I don't even know the name of it, but I started there was a guy that actually Steve Carless introduced me to. They're pretty good friends, and he's down, and that is really into the air purification stuff, and he does installs and everything around the country. I started probably 4 years ago in Gulf Shores, Alabama, where I have some vacation rental properties down there, because my HVAC guy, he owns his name's Ruben, he owns Modern Air down there. And I had a house that I purchased and renovated. I actually just put it on the market to sell, but the subfloor was complete mold when we bought this house. It hadn't been renovated, updated. It was like 35 years old beachfront property. And so I had to rip out everything. I had to put in all the way down to putting in new joists. And if anybody's ever done major reno, that is super expensive. I did not want to do it. And I had to replace the HVAC. And I said, hey, I want you to clean the ducts with the mold. And he's like, dude, I'll clean it for you for $1,500, but really you probably want to spend like $6K and get rid of all of that because all of the crap's been going through it. And then I don't know what they're called, but there's like these NASA approved purifier system that we can put into it. And I have no idea what it was. And we did that, and that was like $2,200 on top of it. So I've got 9 properties down there. Every single property we put in the purification system. Because I have respiratory issues, I didn't really know anything. He was the first person to kind of give me an education on this. I'm not going to tell you that every one of the properties that I own, which are short-term rentals around the country, have them, but I would say that probably 70% do at this point. And we've installed them in our home, primary residence in Nashville. We have 2 kids, 2 girls. I don't want them to grow up with those issues. So that's pretty much the extent. Honestly, one of the reasons my wife and I left here, Southern California, was because of the air quality. And it's bad in Los Angeles. We lived in a town called Bakersfield, which is 2 hours north of here, but it's at the bottom of the Central Valley. And all the smog, all the air quality, it's like one of the worst air quality cities in the country. I think it's top 20 in the country, and it might be like number 2 or 3 in California last time I looked. It's been a couple of years. And I had so many friends that were older than me in the golf community when I was growing up that left and would move to Tahoe, or move someplace else just to get out of that town because of the air quality.
Yeah, we've done projects in Bakersfield. I know exactly what you mean. You've already mentioned more than most. First off, you knew enough to actually eradicate the mold. I know it was a tough decision because you had to invest more money than you wanted to, and from a numbers perspective and an investment perspective, it probably made less sense financially, but you did the right thing. And you learned about air purification systems, put in an air purification system. I don't know which one you put in, but speaking of the price point, about $2,200, it sounds about the right price point for something pretty robust. And so you put in this, it's at 70% of your rental properties across the country. Again, that's more than most. I mean, I walk into houses all the time, people that are renting houses, and there's not an air purification system at all in the HVAC system. Especially in Florida where I live.
Because it's a pretty
it's much more
stodgy
important.
industry, to be honest with you. People don't take care of their shit in this industry. But I'm really good friends with a guy that is the safety guy in the industry. And it's not just about smoke alarms and handrails and stuff like that. He talks a lot about, the air quality that we're providing, and, and even to the safety side, having CO2 sensors and, those types of things. But 95% of the people that are doing arbitrage, co-hosting, any real estate investing, whether it's boutique motels or, multifamily or, single family homes, they won't make the investment because they don't have to, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that actually, honestly, I think that the investment, nobody knows that I had mold on my joists and I had to replace joists and subfloor and all that type of stuff. But I do market that I have an air purification system because that gives me a competitive advantage. And I believe in a lot of respects, it could give you a competitive advantage in a restaurant or I'm literally at a hotel right next to LAX, if you've ever been here. If on this airport drive, all these hotels suck. Doesn't matter if it's a Hyatt, I'm in an Embassy Suites, we're having an event here tomorrow for 100 people. And this is so old, it's probably 40, 50 years old. I can only imagine what the air quality is like in here. I wouldn't want to run through this furniture with a black light, to be honest with you. So but I have no other choice, right? What am I going to do? Go stay 30 minutes away in Santa Monica or something? You can't do that in LA.
Yeah. No, I understand. I mean, it's you got to control the controllables. Obviously, you're going to spend a limited amount of time there. You're going to get out of there. You've got air purification systems at home. You've got better air quality, and that's where you're going to spend most of your time, right? And so you do what you can. But it's really cool that you went there and you decided to invest in that. And on the flip side of things, like, you are investing in other people's welfare, and there's a lot to be said there, because obviously if we can control what we can control from a positive perspective, we really put people in a better position. I mean, if we have poor, shoddy investment properties that are horrible air quality that are making people sick, I mean, there's no wonder why they can't make the rent on time, right? They could barely get to work on time. And so, these things have repercussions, a lot of which we don't realize. But some of those repercussions can affect the entire industry in a negative way. And so I really appreciate you for, going above and beyond and investing in, these properties properly. As you mentioned, some of the industry can be kind of stodgy, which is unfortunate because there's plenty of opportunity to make money and to do the right thing and help people thrive, which is what we want.
Well, I mean, you can also gain a competitive advantage. I mean, there's nobody that I've ever seen that markets in their Airbnb or Vrbo listing that they have air purification. The type of chemicals that we put in our swimming pools and our hot tubs, the lack of chemicals that you put, like, I'm a big yard guy, and at my primary residence and I think it's probably because of my golf background, I want everything to be perfect. And it started at my primary residence. I switched from True Green to, I think it's called Nature Zone or something like that is what we use now. And it's just all organic stuff, that we're using. And, I'm not like you, I'm not, a huge public advocate of this stuff, but it's something that we've changed. And I made the change when I started grounding. So it's been relatively recent, in how we take care of our own lawns. And, and there's nothing wrong with True Green. My lawn was exceptional. It's not as good with the organic stuff, but do I want to be walking on those chemicals if I'm going to ground for 15 minutes or 20 minutes every single morning? Not really.
Yeah, you're right. You don't, because it's, what goes in and on your body. Now, if it's on your body, it's going to go in your body, right? Thermal exposure. No, it's a smart maneuver. And no, I totally understand that. I mean, but I really appreciate you for it as an advocate, as somebody who's seen all these people become injured over time due to poor air quality. It's really nice to see someone like you kind of come in and, just do what you can, right? And you put it across 70% of investment properties. You didn't have to do that, right? But you did, and that's awesome. And you're helping to kind of lead an industry forward in the right way. Speaking of leading an industry forward in the right way, you do a lot of business consulting and can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing today as an entrepreneur and helping other entrepreneurs become better entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I mean, I've got 7 different businesses that my wife and I own and operate together. We operate as a team and a singular unit. My big one is my own real estate investing portfolio. I've also got an Riven investment group that I have 2 business partners in, and we buy motels and multifamily and turn them into short-term rentals and that type of stuff. But my biggest one is really just educating people. Whether you're a medium-sized income earner or you are a high-income earner, the tax benefits, the long-term wealth building strategies inside of investing into real estate. And I do have a focus on short-term rentals, because the old adage of buying and holding long-term rents and just waiting on appreciation, that's great. But if you can 5 or 7x your cash flow on top of that, that's why I migrate. I got out of all my long-term rents in 2015 and migrated everything into short-term rentals. And I've been here for almost 9.5 years. At this point, built about just under a $20 million portfolio in short-term rentals with one investment. And that's kind of what I teach people how to do. You don't need millions of dollars. You don't need to be a hedge fund manager that's sitting on 25 million cash, to get started in real estate. You can get started with 50,000 or 60,000, and you can buy a really nice property. I just closed on a property, Michael, right before I also have the biggest conference in the industry, the STR Wealth Conference. And the business is Build Short-Term Rental Wealth. I've got a free Facebook group, over 35,000 people in it. Just type in Build Short-Term Rental Wealth, get all the free education, not going to try to sell you anything. But one of the really important things for me is to understand that not everybody has hundreds of thousands of dollars to go buy $1 million property. So my wife and I started in 2015 with $126,000, which was, at that time, I probably had less than $1 million net worth. And that was savings for us. And we bought a beach house in Gulf Shores. And the previous year, a property management company did $44,000 in total gross revenue off of that property. We did 98 in year number 1 and grossed 41,000, or netted 41,000. And the second year, we did 118,000 and netted $58,000. All through just doing the right things, marketing, listing up revenue management, that type of stuff. And then we moved into our second investment. It took us 2 years to build up enough cash to be able to buy that second property. And then in year number 3, and this is the big mindset shift that's different than like buy, hold, small apartments and long-term. We did what we called reposition. We gained so much equity between the end of 2015 and the beginning of 2018, really was December of 17, that we sold that property, we bought a lot, then we built a 6-bedroom, 4-bath, right? And the lot was the equity to make that decision. Well, I'll just give you the Cliff Notes version. Completed that house. It's done over $300,000 in revenue for every year that we've had it. We net over $120,000 a year, about right around 130 on average since we've completed that project. So now what happens is your cash flow stacks on top of each other. Your appreciation appreciates. So in every single business, and most importantly in real estate, everybody should look at a cash on equity audit. So if you are making $20,000 a year net, but you got $200,000 in equity in your business, or you could sell the business and then you have better investments that you can invest into, do you want to take 10 years to get to that $200,000, making $20,000 a year, or do you want to get rid of that asset, sell it, and then redeploy it into something else that can generate you more cash flow? It's kind of something that I learned going through 34 startups, bootstrapped every one of them. Until I got into real estate, had never spent more than $55,000 to start one of those companies. Built 1 over to 50 million, 3 over to 30 million. Most of them hit 10 to 20 million. And I didn't like big businesses, so I would sell, take the cash, and redeploy and start over again. Knowing when to reposition, I look at Kenny Rogers, the gambler, knowing when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to run. Most people don't run. They just hold and they hold and they hold. And now the asset is way too valuable for you. You're not generating enough cash based on the equity that you have in that asset. Could be a coffee shop, HVAC company, can be a piece of real estate, short-term, mid-term, long-term, whatever it is, you want to leverage that. And I'll tell you right now, I'm selling a property that I've only owned for 2 years. Paid $940 for it. Just hit the market at 1.899 million yesterday. I'll probably end up at 1.7, 1.75. I owe 600 on it. So there's tax things that I can do. Lazy man's 1031. That's using cost segregation studies. I can 1031 the money, but I'm going to roll that like $1.2 million in net proceeds, tax-free, going to do a 1031 into a $3 million property. So you think about that. Most people don't do that. Even the old school long-term guys, they buy and they just hold and they hold and they hold, right? So appreciation is your friend, especially when inflation is this high, and especially when we have such a limited supply of real estate. So that's the thing. I look at, there's 4 things if you're ever going to invest into real estate. Cash flow is number 1. Appreciation is number 2. Number 3 are tax benefits. And number 4 is debt pay down. So doing the right financing, the shorter term, 20-year terms versus 30 or 40. Do commercial loans versus Fannie and Freddie. All that stuff, I won't go too much into the weeds. But if you can nail those 4 things, that's how you can turn a $25,000 a year cash flowing property into $100,000 a year. Because of the tax benefits, because of appreciation, and because of debt pay down.
It's fantastic, and that's brilliant advice. And obviously, you're depending on the property, some properties might need to be fixed up, et cetera, but fixing them up properly, making sure they're good investments, you're protecting your investment, those are all really sound.
Nothing better than forced appreciation, as you know, by doing some renovation and fixing stuff up. That's the best route to go for sure.
That is the best route for sure. Yeah, I'm actually in my 3rd flip home where I bought it. Had to gut it, redo it, remove all the mold, change it the way I wanted to change it. And I'll be honest, every single house that I have ever put my hands on has appreciated in value tremendously. I always say, like, the next house is going to be free, and so yep. I've never lived in a house more than 2 years as a result, because it's been so exciting. But it's, from a personal family home perspective, we are getting a little tired of moving, so we might settle down in this one for a little while and, continue to invest in real estate for sure. That's something that I'm passionate about, I think, and there's an opportunity, again, to do the right thing too and create places where people can live in healthy environments.
100% agree with you.
Bill, where can people find you if they want to just get connected with you?
Build Short-Term Rental Wealth, YouTube, my Facebook group, website, buildshorttermrentalwealth.com. Bill Faeth, it's F-A-E-T-H, Bill Faeth 73 on Instagram. I'm there every day. But the YouTube channel, you can follow Bill Faeth YouTube or Build STR Wealth. I'm putting out about 4 new training videos every single week there. Just a lot of content that I put out. I put out about 8 to 10 hours of content a week on all of those different channels. And I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on all the channels.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today, Bill, and share your wealth of information. I really appreciate it and hope to have you back soon.
Thank you, Michael.